This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea. I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week, we are doing another Future Yacht episode and heading to the eternal city of Rome and the Comar yards on the banks of the Tiber to have a look at their spectacular ccat 56. Today, we will 1. Review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking, what would Sylvia say? 3. Naval Gaze and an innovation and or adjustment that might make life aboard a little easier. 4. Have a look at the used market for 3 to 5-year-old comparables. 5. Finally, give it a Dave score and compare the results with all our previously reviewed yachts. I've got something a little different for you today. Our tour will be interspersed with excerpts of a Zoom interview that I did with Comar's sales manager, Mr. Daniel Zampaglione. Daniel brings some very interesting additional information and factory updates to the discussion. I hope you enjoy this direct interaction with the manufacturer. As always, all this fun will be sandwiched between a pairing of wine and a work of art from the same region as the guest yacht in an effort to capture the culture and people who give birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head east across the continent and the Atlantic, all the way down the European continent and further southeast down the African continent to the home of last week's guest yacht at the Durban yards of Royal Cape Catamarans in South Africa. From here, we head back up to the Mediterranean and the banks of the Tiber near Rome, Italy, and the yards of Comar Yachts for this week's guest yacht, the ccat 56. Finally, we hop southeast to the heel of the Italian boot and the vineyards of our wine pairing in Puglia, Imperio 72. Primitivo di Mandura 2019. The Tinazzi family has been producing wines in Veneto and Puglia for over 50 years and is the ambassador of made in Italy quality in the world. The colors and flavors from these regions at the 2 opposite poles of this beautiful country merge into every glass. The Tinazzi wine is located in Lazze, Verona on Lake Garda, where the vinification, bottling, and storage of Veneto wines take place. Another pressing and vinification cellar is located in Sant'Ambrogio de Valpolicella. In 2001, during a trip to Salento, Gian Andre Tinazzi understood immediately the potential of local vineyards. A few months later, the family bought an estate of about 20 hectares, where a few years later, the actual Mesera Feudo Croce has been built. The San Giorgio winery in Salento is a modern facility where Tinazzi vinifies and bottles all its Puglian production, enhancing the potential of local grape varieties. Imperio 72 by Feudo Croce, part of the Tinazzi group, collected national and international awards throughout 2019. Awarded 93 points by Falstaff, it also won Decanter's gold medal, 95 points, and was part of its 50 Wines of the Year list for 2021. In addition, it won a gold medal at the Berliner Wine Trophy, obtaining 97 points. Luca Maroni and Guida Vinabroni d'Italia awarded it the Corona d'Oro. Imperio boasts a deep red color with garnet highlights and is soft yet full-bodied. Its winning characteristic is the complex aroma of ripe red fruits, spices, and chocolate with a slight balsamic note. Good persistence and harmony on the palate between notes of dried fruit and soft tannins with a toasted finish. Perfectly paired with robust first courses, roast meats, and medium mature cheeses.
Oh, you're gonna like that. Cheers, let's go have a look at that boat.
Looking at this amazing yacht, you can certainly see the Italian styling here. I mean, what an exterior aesthetic. From every angle, this thing is an absolute work of art. Look down at the way they've integrated the sun pads on the roof there in all the color schemes, and really unusual color schemes that absolutely work beautifully. The aft is gorgeous with the integrated solar panel. The trampolines look fantastic. Love, again, those integrated lounging pads on the front. Beautifully, beautifully done. Our comparison this week is going to be the ccat 56, the ORC 57, the Kinetic 54, and the HH 55. That is some heady competition in this comparison. So let's first have a look at the profile of these boats. You can see, I mean, they're all gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. The Kinetic 54 stands out as a little bit chunky, but that's just from the profile. When you see it in context, it really does have an elegance all its own. The other thing is the sheer headroom inside that salon is nothing more than spectacular. The ccat 56, probably one of the most sleek, although that ORC 57 profile, Batman's catamaran, I mean, it's hard to beat. And when they did it in that sort of matte, extremely gunmetal gray wrap that they did, oh man, did that thing look sexy. But I mean, the ccat 56, all told, she is one handsome boat. And not to be outdone, the 55 is an attractive boat as well. But I would say of the bunch, it'd be between the ccat and the ORC 57. Looking at upwind sail area, it's the HH 55 out in front with 192 square meters. Very, very close behind is our ORC 57 at 191 square meters. Then it's the ccat 56 at 153 and the Kinetic at 151. Hopping down onto the cabin top, there are no frivolous sky lounges or, flying bridges here. It's all close to the water, sleek, low booms, and low windage. The biggest thing to note here is the way ccat has integrated beautiful skylights just at the forward section of the cockpit, and integrated beautiful sun pads into both the roofline as well as the trampolines. I think they've done an absolutely fantastic job of that. Looking at the top line, it's the ORC out in front at 1.2, followed by the ccat at 1.5, 1.6. Then you make a big jump up to the Kinetic at 2.1, and then the big boy here, the HH55 at 2.580, 2.6 million euro. Heading into the saloon and the cockpit, the ccat has an absolutely massive cockpit. You can see the depth of it there. It is definitely larger than all the others, but you are sacrificing on this that saloon space. You can see the size of the saloon in comparison on the HH55 and the Kinetic. They are a good third larger. The ORC, of course, is ORC. Probably, given the width and length, is about the same square footage as the ccat 56, but a completely different aesthetic once you get inside. All the layouts are very nice. The ccat has a nice U-shaped galley area, which I appreciate, as does the Kinetic. And the others, well, the HH55 is sort of a U with that island, but lots of handholds and ability to stay upright. On the ORC, screaming along at the pace this does, I'm not sure you'll be doing a lot of cooking under sail. Looking at the weight, this is where it gets really interesting. So the ORC is 10.8 metric tons. That is followed then by the ccat at 13.5. Next up is the pure carbon HH55 at 14.2, and then the kinetic 54 pure carbon at 14.9. So there's something for you to sit up and take note. The two pure carbon boats are heavier than the others, which are a carbon glass mix. Think about that one for a moment. Heading into the accommodations, this is where the ccat stands head and shoulders above everybody else. So you can see it has an athwartship master. The owner's suite is the full port hull, and that athwartship berth is full three-sided walk-around, relatively low, lots of space and movement around there. It really is spectacular. The ORC, it's an ORC. So, yeah, you have athwartship berths, but they are hull-to-hull mattress, so you're climbing in and out over your partner, whatever you do there. Kinetic, very nice athwartship forward berths with reasonable three-sided access, but there are arguments to say that the forward athwartship positioning, such as in the balance, and this kinetic is not as comfortable a placement as the aft athwartship. HH55, they don't need to know the meaning of athwartship, which I bring up constantly to Seth, and he'd probably like to smack me for doing it. I'm not sure why they can't do it. Gunboat has done it. Seacat's done it here. And Kinetic has done it. I think, and when I did my survey of luxury items, the athwartship three-sided full-axis berth was in the lead by a long shot. I think really HH should start thinking about that one. On that note, I brought up with Danielle the question, how has Seacat managed to get such a spacious owner's athwartship berth? Here's his answers.
The one I was focusing on today is this one. I sent it to you, and it's the comparison of your new 56. This is one that I really wanted to zero in on because you're the only performance cruising cat of your caliber, and this may sound funny to you, that offers a walk around athwartship berth. And you do it in the aft, not in the bow like a balance. So I'm assuming in the aft, it's a far more comfortable berth position. The only one that is close to you might be Vindaloo, and they have a two-side area. Now, in chatting with HH and some of the others, they comment that it's very difficult to do that kind of a berth in a performance cat because of the impact on the hull. So could you talk about what you've done there to allow for such a level of comfort in a performance cat?
This is the result of great harmony between planners and designers. Exploiting volumes is an art, and being able to create space where is known requires many hours of work and dedication. Those who came to visit us could see that we are like a family, and this gives us the opportunity to work together with pleasure. And another strong point which allow us to find solutions is that probably is that we are all sailors, so we understand what the customers need, and we can identify their request, try to find the best solution. So we have we look the boat and think about what a sailor need. And we can use the little space inside the boat to have every stuff that the sailor needs.
Getting into the numbers now, heading across the top line, we've got the ORC 57 as the most economical at 1.2 million. Next up is going to be the ccat 56. This is the new pure epoxy with a whole lot more carbon than the original design had. So it's at about 1.6. Next up is the Kinetic at 2.1, and that is just a brilliant technologically loaded boat. And then the HH55, the Lamborghini of the group, at 2.580, 2.6 million euro. Heading down then onto the sail away prices, you can see the ORC at 1.8. Next up is the ccat at 2.5, then the Kinetic at 3.4, and the HH at 4.2 million USD. Heading down into the stats, it's the, you can see a lot of ORC here. It's the ORC in the lead for length overall at 60.33. The next up is going to be the ccat at 56. Then length at the waterline, it's the ORC at 57.61. Next up is going to be just a hair behind it is the 56.1 of the ccat. Draft, it's the ccat. She wins with a minimum draft with boards up at 1 meter. Next closest is the HH at 1.3. Displacement, it's the ORC at 23,801 pounds, followed by the ccat at 29,000, just a hair above, 762 pounds. Heading down into the engines, it's Kinetic in the lead there at 80 horsepower. The next closest is 57. They're all 57, 56. And then fluids, we've got the Kinetic in the lead at 1,000 liters of fuel and water each. Getting into the performance indicators, looking at hull construction. You've really got Kinetic and HH out in front. Now, this could be debatable, though. You really start to get into the nuances when you get into this material stuff. You've got both are pure epoxy boats. They are vacuum-infused full carbon fiber with foam core. Now, ccat is pure epoxy, vacuum-infused full foam core, a full carbon deck, and all the main stress points with glass in a chunk of the hull. And the reason being, we'll talk about that actually, Danielle will talk about that, but it's the durability and the flexibility of the glass versus the rigidity of the carbon and some of the points of delicacy, one could say. Heading into the performance indicators, we're looking at sail area to displacement, which is indicative of power. You've got the ORC, the powerhouse, at 39.77, followed by the HH at 33.26, then the ccat at 27.5, and the Kinetic 25.9. Next is displacement to hull length at the waterline, or an indicator of heaviness. Of course, the lightest is the ORC at 54.46. Not to be outdone, though, the ccat is close behind at 75.7. Then you got the HH at 88.75 and the Kinetic at 92.82. Again, both the pure carbon boats are a higher DL ratio than the two glass and epoxy / vinyl ester boats. Next, we're looking at hull speed, and that's just a factor of length of the waterline. So we've got the ORC in the lead at 10.21, followed by the ccat at 10. And heading down to KSP, or an indicator of potential speed at 10 knots of wind, you've got the ORC, which is a wind speed plus boat at 112% of wind speed. Next, though, again, is the HH at 94, and then the ccat very close behind at 88%. Finally, the kinetic at 81%. All remarkable numbers. Now let's talk to Daniel again about that whole hull construction and materials argument. Here's his thoughts.
So your construction, I had thought it was vinyl ester, foam, and e-glass, but you have switched now to epoxy, foam, and carbon fiber. Is there anything? Yeah. It's not a pure carbon fiber boat, though, is it?
No, not for the hulls. This is a choice because if you will be, for example, in the Caribbean, and you want to put your boat on the ground, the hulls in carbon fiber are not so good because the carbon is very light and very hard, but the risk of crack is high.
That's interesting.
So we prefer to have the hull in fiberglass and with a carbon for to reinforce the structure.
The bulkheads and the key stress points.
Not only the bulkheads, but also the stress point of the structure.
If you're enjoying this content, trust me, it takes a long time to hack all this stuff together and do the research. It costs you nothing to subscribe, and I would really appreciate it if you could. We're nudging on 2,000 right now. I'd love to see that at 10,000 real quick. So if you could subscribe, I would really appreciate it. It would help out the channel. And then set that bell as a reminder and share this out with some like-minded sailor friends of yours. Thanks very much. Hopping on board, what would Sylvia say? Well, Sylvia would take one look at this beautiful example of Italian design and every integrated line and color and curve, and she'd say, giddy up! I mean, this is a gorgeous yacht no matter what angle you look at it. I was looking at those upper integrated sun pads and thinking, my goodness, wouldn't it be lovely to have a fly lounge there? And I did bring it up with Daniel, and here's his thoughts.
So much. We are working for an American guy, because he preferred to have the fly bridge. So we are working on the project to have the fly bridge on the 56.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no
idea. The problem is to have the fly bridge, you have to move the boom, and you lose a lot of square meters of the mainsail.
So, Danielle, I had no idea you did this level of customization. I mean, that's incredible.
No, this is not incredible because we build the boat totally in our shipyard. So we can do it. We build, for example, we don't have other companies that work for us for the furniture.
Right.
We have the guys, the woodworker inside the shipyard, and they made the furniture boat by boat.
So there you have it. It seems that Comar and ccat can do almost anything, including that fly lounge. But let's do a little bit of navel gazing now. I was thinking about that fly lounge and not wanting to destroy the beautiful shapes and lines of the profile of this boat. So I'm going to hearken back to the Versa lounge. So you can see they've already got the pads, as I said, up on the roof line. If all they did was maybe thicken up that roof line, hiding some of it with some faux glass extension in the cockpit glass, or various ways that you can manage the way light and shape works, just to thicken it up enough, and then integrate a recessed flip down lounge area, the Versa lounge. Here it is when it's up in its full position, so that it's very similar to the one on the XS 14. I thought they did a brilliant job. They didn't need to raise the boom there at all. They simply put a preventer on it when they're at anchor. It's only used when you're at anchor. They flip up the back of the seats, flip up the table, and Bob's your uncle. You have a beautiful place for sundowners there, and you're not wrecking the line of your boat or the height of your boom. Now, one thing you always do lose then is your solar area, but the Versa Lounge here doesn't lose that. You can see the back flips down, exposing the solar panels in the back, and then flips out, exposing solar panels that were sandwiched between the two the seats as they were folded over panels, creating a full massive solar array. Now, as a cherry on top, when the Versa Lounge is fully deployed, you could also incorporate a similar flip-up convertible sun top, similar to the one that they have on the Lagoon 55, pictured here. I think it would be a tremendous addition to the top of any performance cruising catamaran. Back on the exterior, circling around here, again looking at every delicious angle. You've got that beautiful integrated solar panel integrated to the dinghy davits. You've got nice, easy access onto wide sugar scoops, easy access up onto your weather decks. You've got the elevated helms there, a beautiful and expansive cockpit. Now, speaking of helms, let's do a little more navel gazing. We're going to look at these helms here. They are lovely, but wow, are they ever exposed? What about doing something like the Versa helm on the Outremer or the Balance, where it swings up, and when you want to be out there, wind in the hair, it swings in. When you want to be a little further inboard, and it swings down so that you're steering looking through the windows, and you slide the cover over top, giving you complete shelter. Then on the opposite hull, instead of simply doing a mirror of the same helming position with a Versa helm, why not do what Outremer here did and put a fabulous tiller seat on the other side, but take it one step further and add in the amazing HH-52 Starship Enterprise Captain Kirk chair with fully integrated plotter. You've also got remote controls for all your winches so that you can dump the sail in an emergency, and you're hanging your seat over there. This gives you the best of Balance, Outremer, HH, and by the way, that fantastic seating position of ORC, where you're, hair on fire, butt hanging over the side, full view up the side of the hull, full view tilted back at the trim of your sails, and an incredible carbon fiber tiller in your hand. Can you imagine anything more fun? You would have your cake and eat it too completely. So I brought this up with our dear friend Danielle, and again, we have a fascinating answer of factory flexibility and customization. Have a listen.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about helm position. Your helm is relatively exposed. Now, I know that you do have the interior steering position, but you don't have your controls. So if I'm in heavy seas, my wife is nervous, she's sitting inside or out in the cockpit with me, I am very exposed, and there's no way to really get out of that. Do you see utilizing that sort of Versa helm that Outremer and Balance have used to pull the helm inside, or what's your thought on that?
If you are a sailor and you are driving a sailboat, you are exposed. So it's the why on the cat you want to stay inside. In the third helm is an optional inside. Now the new version is like a normal helm, not like the helm on the hull number one. That is on the number one is an helm station like a motorboat. On the The other project is a normal helm station, like a sailboat, with a big wheel and a direct control of the rudders. We have a direct connection, rudder to rudder. Is totally mechanic, with one pole from one rudder to the other rudder, outside the boat. Is in carbon fiber.
Okay. So then on the
And
56,
it's very good for the filling,
yes,
because you have
yes,
direct
absolutely.
both rudders.
So on the 56 then, has anything changed from the renders
Oh,
that you currently
wait.
have?
About the Versa helm. Nobody asked to us to have a Versa helm, so we don't use the Versa helm. But if you want a boat with a Versa helm, we can build a boat with a Versa helm.
Okay, back on board, moving into the cockpit. And it is a glorious place. Look at the integrated indirect lighting on the bimini top, massive sliding doors moving into this incredibly attractive cockpit. Let's do a little bit more navel gazing. What would I like to see at the front here? Right to the side on the starboard side, I'd like a door accessing the front trampolines. And I would like not only a door, but a forward cockpit with some nice seating so that you can have privacy, have at your sundowners when you're med moored. Nice little set of stairs there off to the port side, up onto the main deck, and really creating a fabulous ventilation opportunity, not to mention safety in heavy seas, so you can get up, get to the base of the mast really quick without navigating the weather decks. It's all there. You got all the space. You could easily do it. And again, I didn't ask Daniel about this one, but it does seem that given all of their flexibility, this might be a real possibility. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. Back inside, this really is an elegant space. You've got those fabulous sunroof panels there. You got wonderful integrated lighting. Everything is tasteful, so Italian in every aspect. Every corner, note the corners, they're all curved. I mean, that is just a beautiful job. You're not going to hurt yourself anywhere within this beautiful saloon. It is, a little shorter. They've dedicated a whole lot of space to that aft cockpit, but that is where you spend most of your time. On the new design, they've replaced that motorboat steering wheel with a full proper steering wheel, great wheel for a boat. So let's head now down into the starboard hull. Looking aft first, we head down the corridor, and there is your aft berth. It is a full thwart ship, but wall to wall. So again, you still only have one side access for your guests. That's fine. You really don't want them staying too long, so don't make them too comfortable. Beautiful placement of the TV. They're looking straight out of the windows. Note how low down that bed is too. So it's very comfortable to get into. Heading all the way down the corridor up into the bow, you have a beautiful double berth here with an inboard window that would be so cool. I mean, as a kid, I would love this berth. I can see out the hull side. I can see out inboard. Okay, let's cross over and head to the owner's hull here on the port side. And looking back, be prepared, there it is. Look at that absolutely gorgeous owner's berth. Now they've put a little step, so you step up onto the floor, giving the sense that your berth is even lower than it actually is. And I just think they've done an absolute fantastic job. When you're sitting up in bed, you're looking out these expansive windows, lots of ventilation space. And again, prepare yourself for wonder. Look at this head, how beautifully done it is, the size of that spectacular shower, all of the mirror work in here. It doesn't have a double sink, but it is really, really spectacular. So there you have it. I think Sylvia would love that to absolute bits. So at this point, I asked Danielle about the customization capabilities for the interior finishes. As you know, I have my preferences to a slightly more classic luxury, and we chatted about that. And then the most important question was, in a light performance boat like this, how comfortable was it in heavy seas? That is the big question, especially if I'm going to convince Sylvia on board. Let's step in and have a listen to that conversation now.
As an outsider to this industry, I'm always surprised at the difference between the interior of power yachts and the interior of sailing yachts. Power yachts still have a very sort of glitzy look to them, whereas sailing yachts seem to be very minimalist. But one of my favorite yachts from the past was the Privilege 585, just from the interior, with the gloss wood and things of that nature. Do you offer that option? Like, could I order gloss finishes if I wanted?
Yes, of course. As I told to you, we are able to customize everything you want. So if you were going to buy a tailored suite, we can see the boat on you. So if you prefer to have another kind of materials inside, we can do it.
If we're in 40 knot winds and 3 meter seas, in your opinion, how's it going to handle versus other boats? Is my wife going to be frightened, or is she going to be nervous, or is she going to be comfortable?
I know exactly what happened with 40 knots and 3 meters of waves on the 48. So I can give to you the real feeling in this condition. It was really enjoyable and almost
really fun. Really.
Yeah. The feeling is good stability, and the safety is very, very evident. The boat is very neutral and easy to handle. The rudder is very light, and this is indicative also for the 56, because we don't have the hull number 1. So, but the project it's like the same. The boat is wider than the 48 and longer than the 48, so probably it will hardly fall into the waves, but it will pass from one to the other wave without pitching. When we was in the storm with the 43 knots and the 2.5 meters, 3 meters of waves, there were the coffee machine on the kitchen, and we said, oh, the coffee is on the ground. No, the coffee was on the kitchen without any problems.
Well, there you have it. Beautiful and comfortable. Now, let's compare this to some of the pre-owned comparables that are available on the market today, if we can find anything. First up, we're looking at a 2018, so that is a 4-year-old gunboat 57. This is probably Hammer, which we've already reviewed. They're asking 2.250. Remember, our sail away price for the 56 is 2.55. So 2.250 for a 4-year-old gunboat versus 2.55 for the brand new sail away on the 56. There is no question it would be the 56. The gunboat is tons of fun, but it was not a practical round-the-world cruiser. Next up is a 2020 or a 2-year-old McConaughey MC60. So this one is 3.2. Now, admittedly, this is a bigger boat, but the next one down was a little too smaller. Anyways, I went with the bigger one. We got 3.2 versus 2.55, so $250,000 difference. I would be happier than a pig in mud to stick with the ccat 56. Although you do know I have a soft spot in my heart for this McConaughey. Money no object. I might look at the McConaughey. It will all depend on quality of manufacture that I have to look into. Next up, we are looking at a 2021 Neisner 550 Fly. We've already seen that this is no slouch in performance at 86% wind speed and lots of space, lots of customization, very good quality hull. This is a very comparable boat, although it's a very different boat. They're asking 1.8 versus 2.55. This is a 1-year-old boat, 2-year-old boat. I would, on this one, I'd have to go with the Neisner. Next up, a 2022 Marsden ORC 57 Batman's boat. They're looking at 1.950, about 2 million versus 2.5. I mean, if I could have two boats, I'd have both of them. But Sylvia would never live with the Marsden sense of aesthetic on the interior, the minimalist sense of aesthetic on the interior. This is a pure sailor sailing boat, and Sylvia is not a pure sailor. So I would have to go with the Sea Cat. Okay, next up, monohull heresy for the catamaran purists out there. We are looking at comparable monohulls. We're looking at 20% bigger monohulls to make an honest comparison to the equivalent catamaran. So we're looking at big boats. We're looking at boats that are 66, 70 feet. First up, this is not 66, it's 62 foot. It's a 2019 Oyster, but I really wanted to get an Oyster in here, and there's just no bigger Oysters short of an 80 foot that I could find. So 2019 Oyster 625. So we're looking at a 3-year-old boat, at 2.6 versus 2.5. Oh. Now, if Sea Cat delivers on the renders, this would be a fair fight. However, I know the Oyster, and I do the Oyster on this one. That is an elegant boat. Next up, we're looking at an ML 64. Again, this is a 3-year-old boat. 64 feet long. They're looking at 2.1 versus 2.5. I'd probably do the ML. They're such a good boat. They're bulletproof. The only thing against it is it's a monohull, but there are arguments for that. And I've been educated by some of my audience about that recently. Next up, we're looking at a 2021 CNB 66. So they're asking 2.550. No contest here to be the Sea Cat. Next up, my favorite, 2019 Hansa 675. They're looking for 1.6 versus 2.554. That's almost $1 million. I'm sorry, I'd have to do the Hansa. Okay, on to the Dave score. How did she score? Looking down the giant list, man, she did extremely well. Remembering this is a preliminary score, but the Sea Cat 56 scored a 9 out of 10 on the interior elegance, an 8 out of 10 on the exterior elegance, comfort, an 8 out of 10 on the interior, an 8 out of 10 on the exterior, quality, 8 out of 10, hoping she lives up to that. Performance, definitely 9 out of 10. Lazy Sailor, 8 out of 10. Condo, 8 out of 10. She's big enough. I'd have sacrificed more of the cockpit for the saloon, but there you go. Geek is 8 out of 10. This is it's quite a combination of passion and function and comfort. And value for the money, 6, 7 out of 10. I mean, this is getting up there in price, and the minute you start adding technical features, the price starts to hockey stick versus really what you're getting in return. You have to be something of a connoisseur to really appreciate it and put value to it. And I'm not quite there on the connoisseur level for sailing, technical sailing capabilities. So there you have it. For our Art of the Region pairing today, we're enjoying Antonio Donghi's View of Perugia, oil on canvas from 1939. Born in Rome, Antonio studied painting at the Istituto di Belle Arti from 1908 to 1916. After military service in World War I, he studied art in Florence and Venice, soon establishing himself as one of Italy's leading figures in the neoclassical movement that arose in the 1920s. Possessed of an extremely refined technique, Antonio favored strong composition, spatial clarity, and populist subject matter. His figures possess a gravity and an archaic stiffness reminiscent of Perio della Francesca. Critics likened his work to that of Henri Rousseau and George Seurat, whose scenes of contemporary life are similarly touched with a subtle humor. His still lifes often consist of a small vase of flowers depicted with the disarming symmetry of nave art. Donghi achieved both popular and critical success. In 1925, Franz Roh named him among the major Italian artists in the new magic realism tendency. In 1927, Donghi won first prize in an international exhibit at Carnegie Institute in Pittsburgh. In View of Perugia, Donghi depicts the city of Perugia, which is located in central Italy and is known for its rich history, architecture, and cultural heritage. The painting showcases unique artistic style which combines elements of realism and geometric abstraction. The composition of the artwork is characterized by a sense of order and balance. Antonio portrays the cityscape with a meticulous attention to detail, capturing the architectural features, streets, and buildings of Perugia. The colors are harmonious and muted, evoking a sense of calm and tranquility. Antonio's choice of perspective and use of light and shadow creates a three-dimensional effect, enhancing the depth and realism of the painting. The brushwork is precise and controlled, contributing to the overall sense of clarity and precision in the artwork. Well, that's our waves, wine, art, and ideas for another week. I do hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this different format with the manufacturer also giving commentary on the boat and its design. There was some very interesting additional information. Stay tuned for next week and another fantastic boat. We'll talk to you then. Cheers.